Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. This behind me here is Loch Tay, and I'm up in the area to shoot a few locations. The first one being the rather steep Falls of Acharn. So let's go. I've shot these falls before, several times, and I've got a little bit of a history with this location. So what I'll do is I'll pop an image on the screen just now and just explain that this image, when I took it just above the falls, I can't remember when, I'll put the date on the screen as well, but I shot this image one day when I was just out for a little solitary walk shooting the waterfalls, and the image was picked up by the Royal Photographic Society, and they actually used it in some of the promotional items for a while. So my claim to fame. Anyway, let's get going. So that's the main Falls of Acharn. There are some more further upstream which I'm going to go to as well, which yes means a wee bit more climbing, but essentially these are the main falls, and this behind me is part of the old hermitage, or the Hermit's Cave as it's called. While I'm here I'll get the camera out. There's not an awful lot of scope for varying the composition. You're pretty much caged in, you're on a viewpoint, and somebody somewhere's decided that this is the best view, so it is what it is. But there's a wee bit more flexibility with the falls further up. Right, let me talk you through that shot. Basically I used the 24-105 because even at 105 I was a bit too close, so the 70-300 would just have been way too tight. And I kind of cheated, I didn't use the tripod, I actually sat the camera on the railings here and just shot a couple of different images. One was tight in, so yeah, just what I was describing earlier, so like that. And I took another couple of horizontal format as well. Unfortunately I had to include a bit of the sky in that, but I was careful to try not to burn that out. Yeah, I like this part here where we have some lower falls. Now I might switch over to the 70-300mm now and really zoom in on that and see if there's an image there. It's going to be a typical long exposure waterfall image, so it's not going to be anything too spectacular. Right, I've grabbed a couple of shots, portrait and horizontal format with the 24-105 and the 70-300, all handheld, well, handheld but using the railing as support. And yeah, now we're going to head back through the Hermit's Cave and move up towards the upper falls. just up here on the right hand side as we're going up, there's a view that I photographed. I think it was probably on my first ever visit. It's nothing spectacular, it's just an old stone wall, kind of like this. It had a kind of solid tree and an old worn farm track leading alongside the wall. And for a long time, this was one of my most favourite photographs that I'd taken since moving to digital photography. So I'll see if I can re-find the spot I took it from. I may be wrong, but I think this gate is the gate that leads to the road where I took that image I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that was the image. I can't remember the exact composition. I think it was something like that, with the leading line of the path leading up to the tree, dry stone wall leading to the tree, the gate here in the foreground had a bit of foreground interest. I'm pretty sure that was the composition. So, what do you think of that? I know that's kind of cheating when it comes to YouTube, showing you images I took previously, but at the time, I really liked that image. Don't know why, don't ask me why, I don't know. And it'll be kind of interesting because I haven't actually looked at it again for a few years. So I'll obviously be looking at it while I'm making this video. So it'll be interesting to see if I still like it. I'm not actually at the viewing platform yet, but I took a slight detour because I knew these falls were here, and I'm trying to decide if there's a photograph there. I do like the colour contrast between the fallen leaves and the new growth leaves on the tree. Yeah, I'll set up the tripod and I'll take the shot. Probably pretty much this composition, I think, between the branch with the leaves and this little fir tree and the rocky foreground. Right, let me talk you through what I've done there. Basically what I did was I took a long exposure of the falls there, but as you can probably see here from the video, there's quite a wind and that's making the leaves blow, and they were obviously blurring in the long exposure. So after I took the long exposure shots of the waterfall and the foreground, which isn't moving that much, I quickly changed the aperture, increased the shutter speed and reshot the leaves. And I'm kind of lucky that from this angle the leaves don't really overlap the water, so it should be relatively straightforward when it comes to blending them and post-processing, so that we've got sharp leaves and blurry water. That's the theory anyway. So I took that first shot, pretty much zoomed in on the waterfall, and then I took a wider shot where I wanted to include these boulders here and that tree. And that was just to put a bit of context into where the waterfalls were and, you know, the kind of overall environment of the waterfall. And same again, I had to take a couple of faster shots so that I froze the leaves. Did a longer exposure for the waterfall, and what I did was 2 focus points as well. So I focused here on the moss covered rocks to begin with, and then I focused on the moss coloured rock right there, which is just in front of the waterfall. And hopefully if that's sharp, the waterfall should be sharp as well. I like that overhanging rock. That's very impressive, isn't it? And then obviously you've got some very impressive falls beneath it. So I might set up here, probably wide angle, and see if we can get an image of that overhanging rock with those branches and roots sticking out, and those falls, probably with these fallen leaves as a foreground interest. Okay, what I've pretty much done here is I've thrown on the 16 to 35mm lens. I've opened that up to the full 16mm, so I've got the widest angle of view as I can get, and that's it on the back of the camera. And effectively what I'm doing is I'm focusing here on the fallen leaves, but I'm using quite a small aperture. I'm shooting at f14, and I'm hoping that that'll maximise the depth of field on this 16mm lens. I'm including the full waterfall, but it's off to the left of the frame, and then I'm making the most of that overhang and the tree perched on the edge. And as always, on the back of the camera, it looks reasonably okay. The question will be, is it all in focus when I get it back? But while I've got the viewpoint to myself, I'm going to move down to this little outcrop here and see if there's any more compositions using the 16 to 35mm lens. But yeah, it's a pretty impressive waterfall, isn't it? Okay, I've come down onto that little viewing point, and as you can see, we've got a very obvious portrait orientation shot here. I'll show you in the back of the camera. That's the image I'm going for. You got the waterfall coming in pretty close to the top third, if you were to go by the rule of thirds. It then swings round before dropping down and leaving the image at the bottom left of the frame. So you've got a definite line. You've got just little hints of the light hitting these rocks, and obviously you've got a brighter backdrop. So I'm having to be careful not to burn that out. So as always, I'm taking a couple of different exposures, but essentially just focusing on this boulder here. A couple of different exposures so that I can retain some of the detail in the water. I don't want that to go too milky. And keeping an eye on my highlights to make sure I don't clip any highlights. But yeah, again, it looks quite nice. It's a shame I'm not able to include that tree at the moment with the composition that I have, but what I might do is try and take maybe a three shot panorama, but rather than a horizontal panorama, I'll take a vertical panorama, so maybe something like that, and then something like that, and we'll see if we can stitch that together in post-processing. But for now, I'm going to take this shot here, and then we'll see if we can do the panorama. Right, well I've done that. I've done a vertical panorama, so something like that, and then something like that, and finally something like that. And we'll see if we can stitch them together in post-processing. I didn't bother bracketing the exposure. I worked out from when I was doing the vertical one here that around about 1/8 of a second with, 0.8 of a second, so almost a second, about 0.8 of a second, and f14 at 100 ISO was retaining enough detail in the water but not blowing the highlights. So I just stuck with that same exposure for all three parts of the vertical panorama. It'd be kind of interesting to see if that works. I don't think I've ever tried that before. But anyway, I'm going to now move, let me just show you here. I'm going to move further along the viewpoint and then out onto this bridge and see if we've got a shot up the waterfalls. I might even be able to include that vertical, the overhang and that tree hanging over. That might be a bit easier to include in the shot from a distance, so I'll try that as well. But I'm going to move on and see if we can get another shot. Right, what about this for a shot? I've actually got the camera in an extremely precarious position. I'm not quite centralised on the tripod, so the camera's off to one side and the centre of gravity is way off over the drop here. But I've got a hand on the strap just in case of emergencies, but it's allowing me to get a vertical shot which includes both sets of these falls and that overhang. Now my problem is I may have to clone out part of this handrail. I'm right over about here, and it's possible I may have to clone out part of the handrail. But you know, it looks as if it's possibly working on the back of the camera. I just need to, as I say, be extremely careful because it's very off balance, and just one slight gust of wind and it's going straight into the water, along with me after it presumably. But yeah, I like that. I'm going to move further down, see if there's a better angle, because I quite like this lower fall here. I quite like the way the water, that yellowy water's pouring over the edge there. It'd be nice to see if I can get that a bit more central whilst retaining those two falls and the overhang. It's not asking for much, is it? Right, slight disaster, I don't know if you can see it, but that little black disc there is my lens cap. As I suspected might happen, we started to slip and I managed to grab the camera, but the lens cap hit the handrail, popped off the lens and dropped about 20-30 feet. So that's that gone. So if anybody needs a Canon lens cap, there's one here if you don't mind going to get it. I can't believe I lost my bloody lens cap. Just in case you're curious, that's the view downstream. There's not really an awful lot going on down there, at least not from this particular vantage point.
And I'm now over to the other side, and as you can see from here, we've lost the upper fall, and you don't really see that overhang quite as obviously. Get quite a good view of my lens cap though, but that's a different story. Yeah, I decided to reshoot the shot just in case it wasn't as nice as I remember. As I said earlier, the conditions aren't anywhere near as dramatic as they were when I shot it last time. It would look very stormy last time I was here, but the general composition's the same. The leading lines of the wall and of the track both converging on the tree, and you've even got the branches on this nearer tree pointing towards that tree as well, so it's very much the focal point of the image. So that's us from the Falls of Acharn. Hope you enjoyed the video. I've never shot a video from here before, so I can't point you in the direction of another one, but if you like the waterfall photography, then I'll leave a link right next to me just now to a separate video which I shot at the Birks of Aberfeldy, which is about 6 or 7 miles from here. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.